Good evening, or good morning, I guess depends on what time zone you're in. My name is Audrey Butler-Swenson, and I am the Liaison Librarian to the College of Management Technology. So if you are the DBA program, the DIT PhD Management, then I'm designated as your librarian. So if you've been in the library, maybe you've seen my face. We have pictures posted in a couple places. So I just wanted to say a quick hello, give a face to the voice. I'm going to turn off my video camera, but if you need closed captioning, the link is available in the chat box. You should see the link there available. If you don't, please let me know in chat or in questions. I will try and keep an eye on the questions box during this presentation. I don't expect to have a huge crowd, so I should be able to make sure I'm following up with them during the presentation. If it's a little bit more of an extensive question, I might wait until the end just so I know that we have enough time. So from here, today's agenda, and I'll just go ahead and start from this PowerPoint, which I should say the PowerPoint will be available, and there will be a follow-up email, and there will be a link with the attachment to the PowerPoint that you can download. I didn't try and put it into the webinar since it's usually hit or miss as to whether or not the actual document will be available or if it'll be easily downloadable. So it's easier to just direct students to our website with an actual hard copy of it there to download tomorrow. So our agenda for today, so as far as researching tips for the DBA, DIT, and even PhD management, lit review, we're going to talk about the scope and purpose of the lit review, looking at your hook and anchor, choosing a topic based on the literature, which is what we call grounded in the literature, and then modeling off of other doc studies and dissertations. And I should say, if you, at any point in time, you want me to slow down or repeat what I've said, please put that in the questions box, and I will happily do whatever it is that you need me to do to be able to follow the instruction that I'm providing. We're also going to look at how to stay organized. We see the example there of search log, and I will show you an image of how that works. We will look at specific databases that will be key to your research. We will spend a little bit of time in Google Scholar. And while I'm in the databases and maybe in Google Scholar, I will be asking for a question or a research topic. So if you have a research topic that you'd like me to demo, when I bring it up, be ready to put that in the questions box so I can give it a shot. Otherwise, I always have a default search in the back of my mind. I have so many that students come up with, and I bring up ones that are a little bit more generalized as an example. Okay, so the scope and purpose of your lit review, it's really there to make a case for your own research, and it highlights the gap in the research. And I should note that the gap in the literature, you're not meant to fill the entire gap. You're just adding to the conversation, the academic conversation about this. Because you can't fill in every single geographic location or demographic. There's too much out there. So you just are finding your own niche with this gap. And then looking at the literature that's already out there if you have a research topic in mind. So if you have a problem statement that you're kind of thinking about, generally what I suggest is going out into the databases, going out into Google Scholar, see what's out there so that you are basing your research question off of what's already been published. I'm going to come back to this further down the road. So we're going to talk about the problem statement and then a little bit about the research here. So as I was saying earlier, especially when it comes down to your hook and anchor, it's easier to find something that'll work for your problem statement and for your hook and anchor if you keep an open mind. Start with the general area of interest, find some articles that really stick with you, look for data and statistics that are of interest, and go from there. There's only so much statistics and data that the government, any government, US government, European governments, African governments, it doesn't matter. There's only so much data that they can collect, and then the rest of it you're going to have to try and find in peer review literature. So if you ever get stuck with that, you can always reach out to the library and we're more than welcome to help you with your research. And I will get back to that once I kind of get through my spiel here about the literature review itself. I'll show you how to contact the library and how to make an appointment with me if you'd like to discuss your research topic. So we have an example here, and basically it's try not to work off of your own assumptions about where you work or maybe two companies that you're aware of. Just because it's a problem at a specific company doesn't mean that it's a universal problem. And this example is a great one. The company just laid off a bunch of CPAs. Maybe there's not enough jobs for CPAs, but maybe that's not the truth. Maybe it's just in that specific company. So keep in mind if you have an area of interest like this, like if you're looking at career paths or a specific kind of career and availability or employment and a specific kind of industry, keep an open mind and go out there and look in the databases and look in Google Scholar. And one of the other things that comes up in my appointments a lot is students will have a very specific data statistic that they're looking for. They've already made up their minds that X industry makes an X amount of money per year because of X, Y, and Z. And maybe they found some supporting literature, but they can't find that specific data point. And that's a tough corner to put yourself into because you don't know if it's out there, and you don't know if it's out there in the way you expect it to be out there. It's kind of like a needle in a haystack where there might be no needle. So just keep in mind that when you're looking for data and statistics for your hook and anchor, keep an open mind, keep notes about what you found and things that might work for you. And I don't see any questions yet, so I'm just going to kind of go through here. And we've kind of talked about this a little bit too. Keep an eye out for things that are interesting to you, things that shock you, or things that you think might work further down the road when you spend a little bit more time with the literature. And so that's kind of what we consider to be grounded literature, that you've spent all this time looking to see what's out there, and then basing your problem statement off of that, and then finding a hook and anchor that come from the research that you've done already, instead of assuming beforehand that you're going to find it. So I'm going to go ahead and exit out of the presentation. Great. And I'll come back to it. And I want to show you the search log that we have available, or the demo, or the example that we have of it. But I want to show you a couple of key services that the library does provide. And let me head into the library main page here. First thing I want to point out is our Ask a Librarian button. So you have 4 different ways to contact us. You can email us, you can chat. If you call us, you're going to have to leave a message and we will get back to you via email. For these 3 services, well, for email and phone, we will get back to you within 24 hours, or at least we do our best to get back to you within 24 hours. At term start, specifically fall, it does get very, very busy, and we might fall a little bit out of the 24-hour range, but usually it's very, very close to that, or a lot shorter than 24 hours. We do have our chat hours posted with the days and times in Eastern Standard Time. And if you would like to talk to me specifically about your research topic, I do 30-minute appointments via phone, or we can do Skype for Business. So actually the reason I have limited hours here for the rest of the month is that I'm going to the Phoenix residency, and I have other things going on as well. But if you don't see a date and time that works for you, please do feel free to email me directly and let me know, and I can do my best to fit you into my, we can work on a time and date that works for both of us. I can only do so much as far as availability, but I will do my best to work with you, and that I do that all the time. So don't be shy about emailing me. Students do it weekly, so it's not a big deal. So back to the library main page. The other thing I want to point out, if you are in the library and maybe it's the middle of the night and you're not sure where to start, or maybe you want to learn more about a specific topic, if you click on Search Everything, you can come in here and enter in a particular topic, keyword, whatever it is that you're looking for. So in this case, I'm going to do peer review. And do make sure that you're searching the option here for Search Everything. And I'll kind of explain what that other option is called, the Thoreau database option. But basically it gives you our website content that discusses peer review. It gives you quick answers with instruction and more links and more instruction related to that topic. And then you'll see on the right hand side here our Thoreau multi-database search. I want to clear up any confusion that might come from Thoreau, especially this main search bar. Thoreau searches all of our databases simultaneously. I'd say it searches 60% of our databases very, very well. The other 40% not as well. And that has to do with the database vendors. They don't like to play nice with each other sometimes. So you're not going to do all of your research in Thoreau, and I'll go ahead and open it up so you can see what this looks like. And you'll see Search Thoreau at Walden University. That'll become more obvious when you spend time in the databases. It'll always notify you which database you're actually in. This EBSCO logo is going to become very familiar. Our two biggest database vendors are EBSCO and ProQuest. So those two icons will become, like I said, very, very familiar. So there's nothing wrong with coming into Thoreau or searching from this main search bar at the top of the library main page. If you're not sure which databases to dig into, there's two things that I point out about that. The Thoreau itself is specific to Walden. So a lot of academic libraries will have a main search function on the front page of their website. And that's to make it easier for patron students to be able to get in there and find what they're looking for without having to figure out which resource to start with. So it isn't there for extensive literature review research. It's really there to help you figure out where to start. And the other thing, while you're searching Thoreau, as part of your literature review, you will be discussing which databases you used and what keywords you used. And if you are, as part of your literature review, discussing Thoreau, nobody outside of Walden is going to know what Thoreau is. Thoreau is just a pet name for this particular database search, just because it has to do with Walden. So keep that in mind, but like I said, it's okay to start in there. Maybe you'll find some databases or resources from databases you hadn't initially expected. So it's okay. I just want to clarify that before anybody really starts to dig deep into that resource in the library. Generally, what I suggest students do is that they start in the Business and Management Research homepage. And I kind of want to point out what the difference. This search bar and the main search bar on the library homepage are a little bit different. So this search bar is set up to search business and management journals in all of our databases simultaneously, so your results are going to be more specific. Same thing if you change it to info, technology and systems, or psychology. This is so if you don't want to get swamped by Thoreau's results and your topic is specific to business and management, you don't get as overwhelmed by your results. But again, you're not going to come here and do all of your lit review through this main search bar, but it's an okay place to start, again, especially since it will kind of guide you through which databases you found your resources, and you might go from there. Maybe you'll spend a little bit more time in a database you hadn't expected. So the other question I get a lot is, which database is the best? And my answer to that is always, it depends on what your topic is. If you have a topic that's to do with leadership, you're going to spend a lot of time in our business and management databases. ABI Inform, Business Source Complete, and Emerald Insight are all business specific. Sage and ScienceDirect are multidisciplinary, although Sage and ScienceDirect are both going to have a very decent amount of business and management specific journals. The second thing is that each one of these databases is going to have different journals, different resources, and they might have a little bit of overlap. That happens sometimes. Maybe ABI Inform has a few journals that Business Source Complete has, but one has access from 1995 to present, while the other one has access from 1972. So it really depends on the collection and what we are able to subscribe to within that particular database. And let me just check to see if we have any questions so far. I don't see any. Excellent. And I do want to point out the other resources before we run a search in here. I do want to point out a couple of other things that might be useful. We have company profile and industry report databases. If you want to look at market research, this is a great database, although I do want to point out that the content's very broad. So if you're looking for a very specific kind of company or something that's a little bit more niche, you might want to start broad. GuideStar is excellent if you're looking at nonprofits. Market Share Reporter, especially if you're looking for industry data. LexisNexis is very similar. You're going to find a lot of company information, company profiles, and Reference USA is a really great resource if you want to know more about industries or businesses in a specific geographical location. These are all really, really great databases. They just kind of all have their own options. So the other thing that I point out here is that there is a literature review accordion. If you click on it, these different sections will take you to our capstone literature review guide, which is very extensive. So you can always come back here and kind of peruse some of the information that's linked through here, because a lot of it is the content that we're covering today, a lot of it is going to be covered in this particular guide with more information, the scope of literature review, organized your literature, looking for full text in the library and outside of the library. We do have a statistics and data accordion, so if you want to know more about looking for data and statistics inside and outside of the library, that's an excellent resource. If you're looking for tested measures, if you're looking for theories, upcoming webinars. I will be teaching a Introduction to Business and IT Statistics Research on Thursday, and then I think it's the week following that I'll be doing a Introduction to Business and IT Theory Research. So you're more than welcome to attend either of those if it interests you. So you also see on the left-hand side here that you have the option to go to Ask a Librarian again, look at our quick answers, which you kind of looked over from the main page, and then scheduling a doctoral appointment, which you can do just the same as you can under Ask a Librarian. So from here, let's go ahead and open up Business Source Complete. So does anybody have a research topic that they'd like me to cover or try researching as an example? And I'll give you guys a second. I'm gonna open up another tab. Okay, so I'm not seeing anything. If I see something pop up, I'll try, I'll add that in, maybe for Google Scholar. So a topic that comes up a lot is employee turnover. So I want to use that as an example. You'll see by the predetermined keywords I have here that I do this search a lot, maybe in different ways in different areas and industries to help students with their research, but it is a very, very popular topic. So for doctoral students, I suggest that you uncheck full text. What that's going to do is it's going to show you everything that's in this database, even if we don't have access to it. What that's going to do is it's going to give you the option to go to full text in our other databases if it's available. And even if we don't have access to it, you'll still be able to request it through a document delivery service, which is something I will show you once we have an example. And then make sure that you check on peer-reviewed scholarly journals. And then you're also going to, if you would like to, you could change your date. You could put in 2013 to narrow your date range if you'd like. So before I do that, I generally tell students just start with everything, see what's out there, and then narrow your dates. So we've got a lot here, which is great, 6100. This goes back over 100 years, but if you'd like to look at something more current, you can change it. Let's go 2013. Now we're at about 1700. So one of the other things that I point out is to look at the subject terms when you look at the articles themselves or when you look at the abstracts. They have labor turnover here instead of employee turnover. So that's something that you could add as part of your search. So we could say labor or employee or labor and then turnover. And the other thing to keep an eye on is that you might also want to look at retention. Because if you focus on retaining your employees, then you don't have to worry about turnover quite as much. So we could say, and you'll see those are kind of already pre-built in there. But I also, you could also look at engagement or employee satisfaction, employee loyalty. There's a lot of different terms that you could start to add. And you're going to notice that I'm putting in an or between these terms, which tells the database to look for either term. And then you'll see that there's an and that goes in between the two. So you're saying employee or labor and turnover or retention or engagement. So you're looking for articles that talk about employee turnover or employee retention or employee engagement, and vice versa for labor here, labor turnover, labor retention, labor engagement. So we're at 1700 as of now. And just by adding in those search terms, it's expanded our results. So there's a lot of different ways to expand your results if you feel like you're kind of hitting a wall. Just make sure that you keep an eye on different search terms that you've used and find related ones. Write a list of all these different related terms based on the different subtopics that you're researching. So let's go ahead and open up one of these articles. I want to point out that while you're in here, you can actually grab the citation of the article. If you click on Cite, if you scroll down, you'll see the APA citation here. While you're grabbing those references, keep in mind that they're not perfect. They're getting you about 80 to 90% of the way. You'll need to go into the APA manual and make sure that they are correct. But they're there for your reference. So let me head back to our search result page, and hopefully we'll find a couple of examples about without full text. All right. So I'm going to go ahead and open up this article. Actually, we don't even need to open it up. That's fine. You'll notice that there isn't a PDF full text link here. And actually, let's find one of those so you have a frame of reference for what that looks like. There we go. Okay, so we'll come back to that previous article. So if you see this Find It Walden button in your results list, go ahead and click on it. And if you're interested in that article, of course. And you'll see that it kind of takes you to, it'll take you to a middle page where you're going to access the database that article is in. So it's saying, hey, it's in Emerald Management. Give it a try, click on the link here, and it should open up the article in full text. It doesn't always get it right. I'd say it gets it right at least 70 to 80% of the time. The background software isn't always able to match up the content in the databases. So if that happens, you can always email us the citation and we can help you find full text. But like I said, you might not have initially found this article without unchecking full text. All right. So this particular article, if you wanted full text of it, and this is just an example, we might be able to find it still in a different database in the library. I'm going to click on Cite again and go down to the APA section. And you don't have to grab the APA citation for this, but it just probably makes it a little bit easier. So from the Walden Library homepage, you're going to click on Services, and then you're going to go to Document Delivery Service. So if you've used interlibrary loan at a public library, this is very similar, except everything's electronic. So if you click on Document Delivery Service, This page gives you an overview of what document delivery service is and how it works. There's a 7 to 10 day turnaround, so it's not a next day service. Keep that in mind. And there is a 30 article per lifetime limit. Students hardly ever reach that max. You can always email us first to see if we're able to find full text for you before you come into DDS to request it. So once you're here, you'll sign in, give us your information, submit your information, and then once you've done that, you'll submit a request for the article that you found, and then once that's complete and once the article's available, you'll be notified via email. Then you'll come back to the DDS link here, sign in, and grab the PDF. Something I tell students a lot is, and I try and repeat this at least 2 or 3 times while I'm at residency specifically, go in there, grab that PDF and save it. Save it in at least more than one location because it's going to disappear after 30 days. So save it on your hard drive, save it in your O365 OneDrive, or maybe you have a jump drive that you use or an external hard drive. Just make sure that you're backing up your resources so you don't have to request that article again, because that will count as another tick against the article lifetime limit. All right. And the next thing I want to do is we'll use this as an example, but I want to show you how to verify peer review. All right. So from My Resources, you're going to go to Oryx. And then you're going to grab the journal title, because the journal is what's actually peer reviewed. Just copying that in. So Oryx is a directory. So what they've done is they've gone through and they've verified all these journals' peer review process to figure out whether or not it lives up to our academic standards. So once you hit search, it'll take you into Oryx and it'll search for that particular journal title. So say, even before we request this particular article, we want to verify that it is peer reviewed. We did check peer review in the database, so we're probably safe, but humans make mistakes and things happen. It's always good to double check all of your resources. Great. So we were looking at Strategic Management Journal. I just want to make sure I had the right one. And you'll see that it's listed here 3 times. That's not a problem. It's just telling you that there are 3 different versions. There's a print version, and there's an electronic version, and I can't see what this 3rd one is, but that's completely normal. The only thing you're really looking out for is this referee jacket. It looks like a referee uniform, and that's Ulrich's way of confirming that this particular journal is peer-reviewed. So if you wanted to use this particular article, it would be just fine. The only time that wouldn't be true is if it was an editorial note, a lit review, a book review, something along that lines that's not actually primary research. But if you're ever curious about that or you're not sure, you can always email us. Something that does come up sometimes with students is that they will come in here, run a search, and there won't be a referee jacket. But maybe they went to the journal homepage and the journal said, yes, we're peer reviewed. But just like the rest of the internet, you are free to write whatever you'd like on your website. And maybe they would go through a peer review process, but that doesn't mean that it is up to our standards. So I always tell students the Ulrichs is going to be your point of reference for any of that, any of your peer-reviewed options. So when you come here, if it doesn't say peer review, then it's not peer reviewed. If it does say it's peer reviewed, then it's peer reviewed. If you don't see the journal in here, you can notify us and let us know. Generally what we do is we reach out to Ulrichs and say this isn't indexed in your directory. Can you reach out to them and figure out what their process is and see whether or not they should be listed as peer-reviewed or not. But in the meantime, we generally suggest students consider that journal that's not indexed as not peer-reviewed, just for your own, safety is the wrong word, but just so you don't end up citing something that ends up not being peer-reviewed, even though it wasn't listed. So I don't see any questions about Ulrichs, which is good. So the database, let's go back here. Let's go back to that main page one more time. I want to show two different items that the database can do that are very, very helpful. So the first one is search history. And this is an example of what I was discussing with the search log. And actually, let's find that PowerPoint slide. There we go. Great. So here is a sample search log. And when we go back in the database, it'll look very familiar. It's a very similar setup. But basically, while you're in the databases, it's very helpful to keep notes about which databases you used, the different keywords that you used, the kind of results you got, and any notes you want to take about it. Now, you don't have to do every single one, but it's helpful for you to make sure that you're not repeating your same searches over and over again, for you to have reference for how well previous searches worked, what keywords worked in a particular database and which ones didn't work in a particular database. And then further down the road, again, when you are actually writing your lit review, you have notes about what worked and what didn't. So you actually have a frame of reference as opposed to kind of having to think back about the months of research you did and the way you did your actual research in the databases. So there's a lot of reasons to keep this search log, but you know, the not repeating your research and being able to explain what research you did in your lit review is very helpful. And I do want to explain, you don't have to, you're not going to reiterate every single search you ran in the database, every single keyword you used. But it's there for the reader to understand that you are a proficient researcher and you know what resources are out there and how to use them. Okay. So the search history option, it looks very similar to that search log. If you don't want to have to copy and paste or type in everything in an Excel spreadsheet, you can, after you've spent a few hours in the database, you can come up here and click on Print Search History, and you can just print that off, or you can highlight this and copy and paste it into a spreadsheet. Whatever works best for you. Nice thing about it is it does show you all the keywords you used, any of the limiters that you used, and the database that you used. So it can save you some time. The other nice thing about the search history function is that if, 2 searches ago there was an article that you were really interested in, but now you can't remember what it was called and which search it was in, you can go back to a previous search by clicking on View Results. And now you're back to that initial 5,400 articles, and maybe it was the second one. And now you can save that article and then move forward again in your search history if you'd like. Let's go ahead and click on this one. Just want a smaller results list. So, maybe you've spent, again, you can get sucked into the databases for a good chunk of time. Maybe you've been in the databases for a few hours. You have tweaked and changed and finally gotten to that perfect search result list, and you don't want to have to run it again. You want to just keep up to date on any articles that would fall into that results list until you're done. So what you can do is click on Share and then click on Email Alert. The first step for this, beyond running your search and finding the perfect search, is creating a personal account in databases. So in this case, you're going to be creating a personal account in EBSCO. You'll sign in. You can use whatever email address you'd like. It's completely your profile. The library does not have access to it. So if there's any issues or troubleshooting things, we won't be able to see it just because we can't log in as you. But once you've logged in, created an account, you can you can choose frequency of how often you'd like to be notified, how recent the articles have to be, and what kind of format you want. But basically, what will happen is anytime a certain amount of articles, and based on your frequency and when you want the articles to be published, when the articles go into or are added into the database and would be viewable under the search that you ran and saved here, an email will be sent to the account that you've set it up with, and all of those articles will be listed with a link into the database to that particular article. So it does save a lot of time and a lot of energy, so you're not having to come back and rerun that research every few weeks to see if there's something new out there. It saves you that kind of time. If you want, there's also an RSS feed link here. You know, some people really love those, some people don't love them. So, you know, give it a try. If you want to do the email alert, you can try it. If you want to do the RSS feed, go ahead and give that a shot. And I don't see any questions about searching the databases. All right. One last thing I want to point out is if you go under Choose Databases, you have the option of searching more than one database at a time. This function will only be available in EBSCO and ProQuest databases, just because they have so many different subject databases that they provide for us. The other ones are very specific to that actual database. But since we're looking at employee turnover, we might be able to look at maybe our psychology database, because it has to do with the reasoning behind people's actions. So maybe psychology might be a good place to add. We could add in Academic Search Complete, which is a multi-topic database. So if you click on OK, and we'll just have to check those again. It clears your limiters when you do that. Click Search. So by adding in psycho-info, we've added a lot. I think and actually let's go back to our original date range, 2013 here. Didn't quite get it. Let's get to 2013. Great. So we've added in a lot of results. So keep in mind, if your research topic falls into maybe IT or health or education, depending on what you're researching, feel free to add more than one database. While you're in here, it'll tell you which database it came from. So you're seeing this one came from PsycInfo, PsycInfo, PsycInfo. So maybe there's a lot more in PsycInfo than what you initially, than maybe what you had thought there might be. Looks like we got back to business source complete. So the databases have a lot of different options. If you have any questions about them, you can always reach out to the library. We're happy to discuss them with you, or you can make an appointment with me and we can spend some time discussing some research strategies for your particular topic. The other thing I wanted to show you before we move on to Google Scholar, hopefully you've had a chance to look at completed dissertations, but I will go ahead and open this up. From the main page, and I kind of clicked on that quickly, you're going to click on dissertations. And I want to point out that we have two different dissertations databases. We have Walden specific and then global. So Walden, of course, is just going to be Walden alumni or completed doc studies dissertations. And then the global option is everybody. So if you want to research, if you want to see what other students from Walden have done, and we could come in here and say, I want DBA or DIT, and we'll say this as a degree. So to do a degree-specific search, you say DBA or DIT. In this case, you're just doing the degree title, and then you're going to change this drop-down to degree-DG. And since our topic was on employee turnover, you'll notice I'm putting this in quotation marks, and that's going to search for that exact phrase. It's not going to break it apart. It won't let it be in a different order. It's that exact phrase. And you can change the dates, but maybe we'll hold off on that until we run the search. Great. So let's go ahead and open up this first one. It's from 2017, so it's pretty new. The nice thing about that is, you can come in, take a look at how they completed their doc study. You can look at their review of the professional literature, and maybe I'll open that up before we move on. But it'll show you which degree they use, or which degree that they completed, a little bit about their research, and let's go ahead and open up the full text. Great. And let's get down to their content list. There it is. So here's basically their literature review, a review of the professional and academic literature. And it, everybody has a little bit different way of breaking this apart. I've seen ones, this one's, pretty specific, a little bit shorter, but some people have like 15 to 20 topics. So everybody does it a little bit differently. I'd say just come in here, see how they've broken it apart. Come in, look at the theory that they used. How did they incorporate that theory? What are the other things that they did in here? And the other thing that I generally suggest students do is look at their references. If you're looking for a particular theory or you just want to find articles that are relevant to your topic, there's nothing wrong with looking at the references that they've used. That might be of interest. That might help you find some other articles that maybe you wouldn't have initially thought of. Because you're going to be talking about them in a different way. Maybe your research topic is a little bit different. So there's nothing wrong with looking at references. And the same goes for looking at references in peer-reviewed articles, especially if they're newer. And actually, if you're researching theory, this can be helpful too, because it'll help you narrow down who the seminal author is, and they'll more than likely have cited it, which they should have if they were doing their job right. And that can kind of save you some time. But if you want to come into the global thesis option, you can search on your topic to see if anybody else has done a dissertation or doc study on your particular topic, which is really handy. The other thing is if you're not sure where to go with a particular research topic, a lot of doc studies will say, suggestions for future research, and that might give you an idea of what you could do based off of that person's previous research. How would they have changed it? What might they research in the future? What would they change it to, or what could be done? So that can be a useful resource. And I don't see any questions so far, which is great. All right. And I just want to point out a couple of other resources in here before. Oh, maybe we'll go into the actual location in our literature review guide, and I want to show you a couple of things that we have in there for staying organized. But before we do that, I'm going to have you go into Google Scholar, which is scholar.google.com. It's freely available. You don't have to go through the library. You just go to their URL. And so we were researching employee turnover. So let's do that search in here as well. So you'll see that I'm putting in quotation marks again, and I'll show you what the difference is between quotation marks and not quotation marks. So the reason you don't do all of your research in Google Scholar is because you're going to, in a lot of cases, get overwhelmed by your results, and it doesn't limit to peer review. So let's go ahead and hit search here. So we're at 85,000 results just on employee turnover alone. So if we didn't have it in quotation marks, we're at 85,000. We're at 716,000. So it does help you find more relevant content, but just keep an eye, it depends on what you're researching. Usually 2 or 3 words is enough, unless you're looking for an exact title of an article. Any longer than that, it really will narrow down your results really, really quickly. So some of the features of Google Scholar, you can limit your date range. So maybe you want to see articles or books or content from 2014 to recent. You can see that there's books in here, there's articles, you'll find dissertations, there's patents, all sorts of stuff in here. You might even find some government literature. So the other thing I point out, so anything you're pulling from here, make sure you go to Ulrich's and verify that it is peer-reviewed. We already walked through that process. Go ahead and let me know in the questions box if you want me to repeat that process. I'm more than happy to go through all those steps again, but just let me know. So in my Google Scholar results list, you're going to see this Find It Walden link to the right-hand side. What you can do is you can set up Google Scholar to search the Walden Library databases, and I will walk through how that works. So in the upper left-hand corner, you'll see 3 horizontal bars. You're going to click on them. And then from that list, you'll click on Settings. And then from this list on the left-hand side, you'll click on Library Links. In the search bar, go ahead and type in Walden. You don't have to do Walden University. We're the only Walden out there, so it'll pop up for us, and there won't be any other schools that'll be listed. So once you've typed in Walden, search this or click the search bar, and then you'll see Walden University Library. It'll pop up. If you're in the United States, you'll see Open WorldCat. If you're outside of the United States, you might not see that resource. You might see something else instead. If it's already pre-checked, just leave it that way. Same thing for Open WorldCat, leave it checked. Make sure that you check mark Walden University Library and then hit save. Okay, so I'm not seeing a great example here. So I'm going to go back to our original search without the date range limited to 2014. So we have 85,000 results. And the nice thing about having this broader results list is you're going to get a more applicable relevance ranking. In this case, this first article is from 1977, so obviously it's outside of your date range, but it's been cited 3,100 times, almost 3,200 times. So maybe that's an important article to read. Maybe you don't end up using it, but it's an important article to review. And then if you wanted to see who cited it since it's been published, you're going to click on cited by 3,177, or whatever the number is that's listed there. What's nice about this is if this is a really important article and people are citing it, you can see who cited it and kind of base it off of your own research here. So maybe from this list, since we have so many, we want to narrow it down to the last year. And now we're down to 245 articles, books, etc., that have cited that original article since it's been published. And then maybe we want to make this really specific to, maybe we can see if there's something in marketing. And then we're down to 106, which is a lot more reasonable to sift through than 3,200. So it really depends on how you want to know your results and what you want to look for. But this whole process of clicking on cited by, that's actually called citation chaining. And I kind of look at it as moving forward in time when you come to Google Scholar and clicking on the cited bys. So you're looking at everything that's from 1977 to present. So the other way you could do this is if you had an article from 2018, 2017, 2016, and you're looking at the references and you can find articles that are still within your date range, but are a little bit older. So you can kind of go forwards and backwards in time. And citation chaining can kind of help you uncover some of those articles that might not have popped up initially in your searches. And it might help you find, some more popular authors as well. Just like the databases, Google Scholar does have the option to create an alert. And let's go ahead and we'll say we only want to find articles from 2018. We just want the newest ones. And this is just an example. If you click on create an alert, you'll see that it has the subject term that we used. You can enter any email address you'd like and then create alert. And so anytime an article is added to the search results list, you will be emailed with the links to those articles, or at least the results list for the articles. I just want to point out, make sure you do this with a shorter results list. If it's like 5 million, you will be getting a lot of emails. Thankfully, it's very easy to unsubscribe, so it's not a big deal. It's a little bit easier if you have a shorter results list. Okay, so now that we have Walden Library linked to the Google Scholar, we have the Find It Waldens on the right-hand side. Make sure you're clicking on these links on the right-hand side instead of the actual title of the article. The title of the article, about 98% of the time, is going to take you to the publisher, and the publisher is going to say, well, log in and you can have access. That doesn't work because it's not proxied through our servers, so you're going to have to go in through this link, which is what that does. It presets it up so you can go right into our databases. Like I said, if you click on the title, it'll say, well, use your username passwords, which won't work. And then they'll say, well, we can give you this article for a fee. And we don't want you to do that because we already have access to it. And even if we don't have access to it, you can request it through document delivery service. So this will look really familiar. It'll look a lot like that Find a Walden option. Oh, and sometimes this happens too. And this is a good example. So when you click on this, when you click on the Find a Walden, sometimes this happens, it says no results found. I would say we might still have this article. Basically what happens is the background software that talks to Google Scholar and then talks to our databases they don't always match up. So, we might not have this article or we might have it. You can always email that citation to us directly and we can help you find full text. And then you'll oftentimes see this PDF or HTML option. That's just an open source link that's freely available on the web. The Walden Library doesn't have any control over it. We don't, it doesn't belong to us, but it's there for you if you want to give it a try and try and access full text. So any questions about Google Scholar? Would you like me to go over that again? Okay, I'm not seeing anything right away. Great. I know it's a lot of steps to memorize, but once this webinar is completed, we will follow up with you tomorrow. There'll be a recording of the webinar. There'll be some links about some of the stuff that we covered today. Again, there'll be a link to the PowerPoint for you to access. You just click on it, it goes to one of our guides, and you can download the PowerPoint from there. And after the webinar is complete, you'll have the option to fill out a survey. I definitely welcome you to fill out the survey. I love feedback, positive or negative or critical, it doesn't matter. I like hearing what I can do better or what you'd like to see covered. That I want to make sure that I am constantly improving. So we've got about 8 minutes left. I've not seen any questions pop up. But if you do have some, feel free, after the webinar, maybe tomorrow morning or something after you've had some time to think, you can always email me directly. That's okay. You can email the library. We'll answer your questions. So I don't see anything popping in, and thank you so much for attending this evening or depending on what time of day or what time zone you're in, morning, afternoon, or evening. But thank you so much for attending, and hopefully I'll see you at another webinar and reach out to the library if you need us. Thank you again.